We always start with our public safety portion. We have Officer John Efstathio and our acting chief, Johnny Barrero. If you want to come up to over here to the microphone. Thank you guys for being here. Yeah, you can go ahead. You have stats or tell us what good stuff is happening.
There we go. All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Officer John Efstathio from the Suffolk County Police Department, 6th Precinct. It's been a little while since I've been here, but thanks for having me. I'm going to go over a couple of numbers, some stats related to various crimes and whatnot occurring in Port Jeff Village. Time period is going to be from February 6th to March 6th, 2022, compared to 2023, same time period. Port Jeff Village saw 277 calls for the last time period, right, in 2022. This time was 254, so we went down. We see aggravated harassments went down from 1 to 0. Assaults were 0 for both time periods. Burglaries went down from 1 to 0. Criminal mischiefs went up from 1 to 3. Out of those criminal mischiefs, 1 of them is under investigation, and 2 of them we made arrests for the other 2. Grand larcenies went up from 1 to 2. Both of those grand larcenies are still under investigation. Harassments went down from 5 to 4. And out of those 4, we saw 2 arrests made, and 2 of them which are still pending under investigation. Pettit larcenies went up from 1 to 2. And out of those pettit larcenies, we made 1 arrest, and 1 is still under investigation. Robberies were 0 for both time periods. So we only had a total number of criminal incidents. Last time period was 11, and this one was also 11. So all in all, pretty good for Port Jeff Village. 80 cases are medical calls. We saw an increase there. We went from 66 to 91. However, our aided ODs are 0 as compared to 1 for the last time period. So this time we had 0. Disturbances went down from 49 to 38. And we saw a little decrease in the total number of non-criminal incidents. We went down from 245 to 233. Motor vehicle accidents. This is nice. We went from 18 to 2. So that's pretty good for Port Jeff Village. That's great. Fatal motor vehicle accidents, 0 for both time periods. We saw 11 arrests being made compared to 7 last year. Does anybody have any questions for any of those stats or the data I just presented? Anyone? Anyone? No? Yeah? Yeah? Yeah?
I was wondering if maybe at some point we could get the stats of the motor vehicle accidents that occur on Main Street.
Okay.
Maybe over the past, and I don't know how difficult it would be to get the stats for between 5 and 10 years. I don't know, that seems like a lot, but.
Okay, so you want to go back 10 years?
Sure.
If we can?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And where would you like it from? From like the West Broadway, East Broadway intersection, all the way up south
to the main village roadways.
North Country
So
Road,
maybe end at Barnum.
Oh, just that section.
Yeah, where the side street parking ends, kind of there.
Okay. So
where street parking on the side of the road ends.
So from East Broadway, blinking light, flashing light, right?
Correct.
Yeah, to Barnum.
Where the street parking ends on on either side of the road.
Okay. Yeah, I think I can make a request for that.
Nice.
Yeah, it's actually quite simple for that because it's easy to pull up MVAs, motor vehicle accidents, between 2 areas. That's simple. When you try to get like a a general area, let's say. If you get one street, we're able to do that pretty easily, so.
Perfect, thank you.
Mhm.
Back there. Yes.
Hey.
Ryan Walker, 721 Pine Tree Court.
I think you have to press the button. You said Walker?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ryan Walker, 721 Pine Tree Court. I think obviously we had less bad weather, which leads to lower accidents this year. That's a no-brainer. To piggyback on what Ms. Sepro said, could we extend it a little longer? Because we have a new light at Liberty Ave. And it would be curious to see whether the accident rate around that area increased or decreased with the state putting in that traffic signal at the Liberty area. I just wondered, is that a possibility?
I'm not sure of your question. What
Well, Ms. Shepro asked you whether or not we can get 10 years of data.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if we could get maybe 5 years of data that extend a little bit further in the area of that Liberty traffic signal.
Oh, I
So
see.
instead of
Some
stopping at Barnum
before
all the way
and
up
some
to the
after.
So you want me to go up to Liberty?
Yeah, just to include that in, only because it is a new signal, and I want to know if that signal is,
So we could do two
Effective.
studies. I could ask for two reports, or just one, from Liberty to East Broadway.
yeah, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, that's fine.
That's
Yeah.
right, that's, as you know, the school intersection. That
Yes,
leads up to the
yes,
school,
yes.
so it's
I
kind
know
of.
exactly where it is,
yeah.
sure. Yeah, new traffic light,
Right.
yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. Does anybody else have anything else they'd like to?
Arthur?
Arthur F., 206 East Main Street.
Yeah, but you gotta press the button.
Arthur F., 206 East Main Street. I'm grateful to hear that we had 0 overdoses, though I've seen there is a dangerous sedative, I think it's called xylene, or the street name is Trank, and it's appearing in samples of illicit drugs throughout the country. A report issued 2 months ago showed that it was in 90% of the samples of fentanyl found on the street. Being that this is causing overdoses for which Narcan cannot reverse because it's not an opiate, how prevalent is this in Suffolk County?
So I could tell you for the 6th precinct, we have not seen that yet. Okay, we haven't seen that xanoline, I think it might be called, yeah, somewhere around there. I'm not exactly sure. So we have not seen that in the 6th. I don't know about the other precincts, but what I can say is that they're now using fentanyl a little differently. They're spraying it on paper. Okay, we're finding that you could spray this on paper, or they water it down, they make it into a liquid and spray it on paper and pass it around, and people actually cut pieces of paper and put them in their mouth to use fentanyl that way. So the xanoline we haven't seen yet, but yes, it's out there. Narcan does not help it, so I guess we're going to have to see what we're going to be doing with that once it hits our streets.
I just
here.
ask, could you please keep us apprised in future reports, because I think eventually it's so pervasive.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't want to see it here, but
Yeah,
it might
absolutely.
make its way.
Sure thing. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Does that, the new drug xanoline, does that present it in the same type of symptoms that you would see in a fentanyl
I believe
overdose?
it does. Yeah, I believe it does.
So how would you know, or would you know, the
well,
difference?
then if you're Narcaning someone, it
You would
wouldn't-
Narcan and then
yeah,
it doesn't
and
work.
It wouldn't work, yeah. It
It's
wouldn't work,
troubling.
yeah.
Thank you, Arthur. Anyone else have anything for Officer John?
If I could just say a couple things.
Absolutely.
couple
Have any
things.
announcements?
Yeah,
Okay.
just I want to keep it to catalytic converters. Last month, the precinct, in January, we had 13 catalytic converters stolen. February, we saw 26. So it's still out there. We thought it was kind of over after some of the collection points in New Jersey who were organizing all this were shut down, but somebody's picked it back up, obviously. So be aware that this is happening. Just try to park in a well-lit area or in a garage if you can. It's something that happens relatively quick. Probably takes a few minutes to cut the catalytic converter off your vehicle. Hondas are a big target, so just be aware Okay, so catalytic converters. If you see anybody suspicious out at night around your neighborhoods, feel free, please call 911, get vehicles into the area to just drive through. It's the best way to prevent some of this.
And John, who would they call if they wanted a patrol in their neighborhood?
For
What
patrol
number?
check.
For a patrol check.
Yeah, so if we have just some issues occurring in neighborhoods that we want to have some routine patrols coming through, you can call my office, 631-854-8689. It's the 6th Precinct Cope office. You'll probably speak to me or my partner, Officer Casey Berry, and we can put a patrol check in for your community so we can increase some of the patrols in that area. Let's lock our cars, right? Let's keep our cars locked in our driveways. Let's lock them when you park in a parking lot because people are out there stealing many items from people's vehicles. So make sure we keep our vehicles locked at all times. Additionally, with that, do not leave your keys in the car. In January, we saw a pretty big increase of stolen vehicles. I believe we had 16 stolen vehicles in the month of January for the 6th Precinct. I don't know what we had in February. I wasn't provided that information. But still, people were leaving their vehicles in the car, warming them up, and just leaving them unattended. So do not do that, or you will make a thief pretty happy as he drives away in your warm car, right? Suffolk County Police Department is recruiting right now. We have our test coming up in the summer. So if you know anybody that's interested to take the test or become a police officer, please let them know that they can go to joinscpd.com and apply there. The deadline for the application is Wednesday, April 19th. Make sure they get that in before that, and the exam date will be June 17th. All right. And last thing I want to mention is the 6th Precinct Community Meeting. If you have not been to a 6th Precinct Community Meeting, it is ran by the 6th Precinct Inspector, Joseph Condolf, and he goes over stats, motor vehicle accidents, everything that I kind of just did here. He does it for the whole precinct, so you can get a pretty good idea of what's going on in all different areas. And that meeting will be Tuesday, March 14th at 7 p.m. All right?
I've been to that meeting. It's
Very informative.
It's very informative, and it gives everyone kind of the broader view of what's going on around us. It's easy for all of us. I know I'll speak for myself. It's easy for me to get stuck in our little bubble of Port Jefferson, and when you go to these meetings with other community members outside of the village and hear from the inspector, who's fantastic, it just gives a broader perspective. So I highly recommend everyone go if you can.
Yeah, thanks. Does anybody have any questions, anything want to mention, talk about, anything? Yeah.
Sorry, I never ask these
No,
kind of
it's-
questions,
yeah,
but
it's fine.
on the joinscpd.com
Yeah.
reference, do you have a waiting list for people who want to take the test and then pass the test and then become cadets, police officers?
Is there,
Is there a waiting list? And
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
okay,
Yeah, that would be a question for the recruiter, so maybe if you go on the website, it might have that information, but I don't know what you mean by a waiting list, if they're not old enough to take the test? Is
no,
that-
not to take the test, but if they take the test and pass the test and
Right.
qualify, is
Well-
that like a 5-year waiting list to be
Okay. I
to
see, okay.
become a police
So
officer?
after you take the test, the process normally is you take the test. This is what typically has happened in the past. Test is around the June timeframe, around June. The scores usually come out in December, around that time. Now that test, as soon as the scores come out, that test is active, right? And they can pull from that test until the scores of the next test come out. So the test is given every 4 years. So those scores would be active for approximately 4 years.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
So there's a lot of people that they would go through
Okay,
to get candidates.
all right, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions for Officer John?
All right.
Thank you so much for
Sure
being
thing.
here.
Thanks.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah, thanks. Have a great night. We'll see you.
Now we have our acting chief, John Barrero.
Hi, how's everybody doing?
John's
I'm
been with our
acting chief right
department.
now,
John's been with our department for how many years, John?
42.
42 years.
I
How
have
about
a
a round
piano.
of
See the
applause for
piano?
Johnny B?
Everything's going pretty good in the village. Status quo. We've increased our patrols through the neighborhoods. We're getting a lot of calls, like the officer said, about the break-ins, and we have 4 areas that we're concentrating on. And
Bless you.
any questions you have? Oh, I thought you wanted. Any patrol checks you want, you can get a hold of us. If we can't do it, we'll notify Suffolk. We haven't had much going on the last 3 weeks. We had an incident yesterday. People asked me about it. 2 Rottweilers attacked a small dog and tore him up pretty good. And Suffolk took him to the vet. The guy got 2 citations, FTAs. He got one for getting nasty with us and dogs loose in the park. Please keep your dogs tied up. We got kids in the park, and he tore that little dog up. Both of them tore him up. That was yesterday. And then Saturday we had petty larceny. We got a call, and then she called back today. Disregarded, they brought everything back. That was a nice call. She says they brought everything back and confessed to it, and I know who they are. So she wants to remain anonymous, but that was a good call. Other than that, everything's running pretty good. Thanks, Suffolk County, for all their help with us. Without them, we'd be nowhere.
Does anyone have
questions?
any questions for our acting chief? Any public safety issues at all around your neighborhoods?
Yeah, feel free to
Traffic.
call us if you have any questions. You can't think of them now. You'll always take your call. 774-0066. Thank you.
Thank you, Johnny. Thanks, Johnny. Do you want to, Mark? Thank you, Mark. All right, tonight we have a very special guest, an honored guest, Mr. Mark Sternberg, if you want to come up. Thank you for being here, and thank you for all your hard work. Barbara prepared this proclamation, so I will read all that Mark has contributed to this village. Mark is an accomplished graduate of Earl L. Vandermeulen Stern School of Business, Emory University, Cardozo School of Law. Is both a certified public accountant and a member of the New York State Bar Association specializing in entertainment law. Mark, as our very own Port Jefferson Village resident, has an unquenchable thirst for local history, and in particular the history of the Revolutionary War Spy-Ring. Mark, as an educator and researcher, has published articles and findings for the Spy-Rings and Turn Academy and Newsday, the Long Island Advance, Times-Beacon Record, and most recently the New York Archives. And whereas Mark discovered the letter of significance, authenticated to prove that the Brothers Rowe from the Drowned Meadow were responsible for providing the intelligence to General Washington, putting Port Jefferson on the control point of the Revolutionary War Spy-Ring. And that was discovered at the University of Michigan?
That was a combination of different papers, but
Okay.
the one that really located it here was actually a pension. So that's actually at the National Archives.
Wow. And whereas Mark's research and primary sourcing and exhibit building has transformed Port Jefferson Drowned Meadow Cottage into a place of history and learning, recognizing him for the distinct honor of the Times-Beacon Records 2022 Person of the Year. It is therefore my great honor as a Deputy Mayor of Port Jefferson Village to recognize Mark Sternberg as a hero of the Culper Spy Ring and applaud his tremendous contribution to our national and local history and for his dedicated service and volunteerism on this 6th day of March 2023. And mark this day in the village as Mark Sternberg, Port Jefferson's notable Spy Ring Historian Day. That's you. And Mark is putting us on the map. Absolutely, we want you to say something. Can we turn that mic around? Oh, right here. There you go.
So I have so many people I do want to thank. The village, the mayor, everyone's been so supportive. Barbara, you've been so supportive in us turning that the cottage into a full-time museum. We're hoping to be open more regularly, but for right now, we're part of all large Port Jeff events. Next one will be the Chili Festival on March 18th, so definitely come by if you haven't seen the museum yet. I do have a lot of people to thank. My wife, Laura, has been with me almost every step of this research journey, and it has taken us all over the country to find more information about Washington's called perspiring and, how it ran through our area, really. I have to thank Chris Ryan. He's been incredibly supportive as we've turned, again, the cottage into a museum, opened it up to hundreds and hundreds of visitors, all super excited to learn so much more about Port Jefferson's history. And we have such an incredibly rich history that does go all the way back to the Revolution. And there's so much more for us to still learn, and we're excited to continue this journey. And obviously I have to thank the rest of my family. They've all been incredibly supportive. Even my sister in England has been researching documents that are relevant to this. Not surprisingly, there's British documents that talk about life here in Brookhaven, surprisingly enough. But with that, again, thank you everyone, and thank everyone in the town for coming by and being so supportive. The energy with the cottage is so incredible, and I wouldn't be doing this if I just didn't see smiles on people's faces as they were coming through and being like, I didn't know this. I had no idea this happened here. And yeah, it's been an incredible ride, and I can't wait to continue it.
Thank you. We are very lucky to have you here. Thank you for all that you do for us. We appreciate it. Public hearing? Okay, we have a public hearing on for tonight. John, this is the public hearing to consider overriding the tax cap as established in General Municipal Law, Section 3C. John, do you want to explain to the public what that's about?
So the subject action tonight is a vote on a local law to enable the Village of Port Jefferson to adopt a budget with a tax levy that is greater than the levy which is usually allowed under New York State law. Under New York State law, General Municipal Law, Section 3, to be specific, a village can adopt such a budget, including a higher tax cap, as long as it is approved by a local law with at least 60%. Thank you. Of eligible voters on the Board of Trustees approving it. So the action tonight is the vote on that local law.
If anyone has something to say. Does anyone have any questions or any comment on
Barbara Sabatino, 2 Westview Avenue. In breaking the tax cap, I had read some information that penalizes the places that do that, and I would like to know if that would happen to us, like school aid or funds or something that to encourage municipalities to not break the tax cap. Other funds are withheld. Is there anything like that?
My understanding is applicable to Port Jefferson, no.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to reiterate, as the believe the agenda says, our budget time of the year is coming up, and so having the public, looking at the budget, asking questions, sending them into any of the board members, and sorry, Barbara, our clerk, and we'll make sure to get the answers and take a close look at our budget as a village to be sure that the spending is appropriate and responsible.
Sorry, Kevin. Any other questions from the public? Okay, motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
Stan second. All in favor to close the public hearing? Aye. And a motion to approve overriding the tax cap as established in General Municipal Law, Section 3C.
I'll second that.
Stan second. All in favor? Not in favor? Motion passed. Good? Okay. We'll move on to our board reports. Stan?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Some news from the Parks Department that is of interest to a lot of residents. The permits are available for kayak racks. If you have a kayak, a canoe, or a vessel, you can pick up your applications right now in Village Hall here. The lottery for those racks will take place on April 3rd. Hopefully we have enough racks this year so we don't really freeze anyone out. You are allowed to put 2 vessels on your rack if you win one. Those vessels must be of approximately the same size. You will have to have 2 separate permits, however. So that'll take place on April 3rd. The pathways in Harborfront Park are going to be renovated very shortly in the coming weeks. We also are discussing maybe some rerouting of those walkways out there. The basketball courts at Kipley Park are going to be resealed, have new lines painted. We're looking into putting adjustable baskets on those basketball courts so that the youngsters can lower the basket to 8 feet. In order to prevent people from hanging on those rims, we're going to be purchasing breakaway rims. Those are rims that if you hang on them, they kind of hinge down, and when you let go, they pop back up. We're reasonably sure that East Beach is going to come back to us this year. With that in mind, we're presently doing an interior upgrade to both of those bathrooms down there. They're going to look new. We've already completed the partitions between the stalls, which were always way too short. We're bringing in new sinks, hand dryers, some new lighting, and a fresh coat of paint on the entire complex. Over at West Beach, we looked into a major renovation. However, when we met down there with the engineers and the architects, they informed us that it would be very difficult to obtain permitting from the DEC and the Board of Health because we're so close to the water down there. Right now, we're really not on their radar. So we're going to be doing an overall refreshing of those bathrooms for this year, and we will work on something going forward for next year because we're too close to the opening of the season. The Parks Department, in cooperation with the Recreation Department, we've developed a priority list of repairs and or renovations for many of our park facilities. Trustee Shepro, hopefully will expand upon that with her report. Up at the Country Club, the membership sign-up at the present time, we're up to 460 members. The revenue is up to almost $1.4 million. Our projected goal to meet our budget is 525 members with 1.5 in revenue. I'm pretty confident that we're going to meet that goal. That budget, by the way, has also been prepared, and I want to just inform the taxpayers the Country Club is totally an independent budget. Your tax dollars do not come into play with the Country Club. We are self-sustaining, and everything up there is paid for by the revenue that's brought in through membership, card fees, guest fees, and so on. For the members up there, we have set a soft opening date of March 24th. By that I mean if the weather still cooperates, we will open on the 24th of March, providing the weather cooperates and the maintenance personnel can get that course ready. If not, we will definitely open on April 1st. We will be hosting a Welcome Back member event on Saturday, April 1st at the Waterview. All members are invited to attend. We're still working on the time. However, I believe it's going to be 5:30 to 7:30. At the last meeting of the CCMAC, the Country Club Management Advisory Committee, they recommended that we renew the resident passes that were eliminated. They were approved at tonight's board meeting, and what they entail are a pass where you can buy a 6-round pass now as a resident. You don't have to be a member. You can buy a 6-round pass. You can play 18 holes, or you can buy a 6-round pass and play 9 holes. This lets you come up to your country club, which is owned by the village. It's one of our finer parks that we have, and you can enjoy a round of golf without being a member. All members will shortly be receiving a short video that we're asking all of them to view. The video is going to introduce the staff at the country club, explain golf etiquette, and it's going to show the members how we can help maintain our golf course. One last thing, we have updated our member handbook, and we've put it into a small hard copy that it's not, you don't have to go to the website and look at it. Every member is going to be given one when they show up the first time to play golf. It's small enough in size, and it contains a wealth of information. As I said, you can pick up your copy in the pro shop beginning on opening day. That's pretty much my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Laux. Trustee Shepro.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Snaden. The first thing I'd like to announce is that the Parks and Recreation Committee met last month and made the recommendation and approved the date for the 2023 annual recreation golf outing at the country club. So that's August 17th, and whoever wants to play, who lives, works, volunteers for the fire department, works at the school district, works at the hospitals, is welcome to participate in that golf outing. It was very successful last year, and the rate is $75 per player, so that's a really reasonable rate for a lot of great things that you get for that money. We elected at the nomination of Jennifer Hildreth of Margot Garant to be the honorary tournament chairman this year, who the honorary tournament chairman last year was Ron Carlson, a longtime dedicated member and volunteer and employee of the village. So Mayor Garant, soon to be not Mayor Garant, will be honored as the tournament chairperson this year. So we're very excited about that. We may even name a drink after her, but we're told it must include bourbon. Okay. The food and beverage liaison report to the country club, that's my area. Trustee Laux manages the golf course and the campus sports and athletic facilities. My role is to interact with the food and beverage vendor and work with our general manager, Tom Natola, on things related to the facilities up there, the restaurant and catering facilities. The general manager is meeting regularly with the food and beverage administrators, and he's helping to correct some of the long-standing issues that are present up at the building, including gutter repair and dumpster area fencing, things that have just been languishing for quite some time. So we're happy that our general manager is up there and working on those important issues with the vendor. Last month at the Social Hospitality Task Force meeting, we presented preliminary but statistically significant findings from the 2023 Port Jefferson Country Club member survey. We presented that to the task force, and the upshot is, and this is important for everyone who lives in the village and who is interested in eating at the country club because it is open to the public. They are changing their designation as a steak house, and looking at different types of themes, and some of those themes include American Grill and gastropub sort of food. So they will definitely be changing the type of food that they're serving as a result of some of the feedback they got from this survey. They're also going to provide more access to the deck. They're looking at more reasonable prices and creating more of a membership feel experience, better service, a cleaner environment, and $4 to $5 draft beers. So very important from that survey finding. So anyway, what's going to happen is that when we return to the next task force meeting this month, the concessionaire will go ahead and present some of the changes that they will be making as a result of the survey. So we're excited about that. At the work session earlier today, the board approved Recreation Manager Renee Lemmerman's request to hire Sharon Philbrick as Assistant Recreation Center Manager. And we're excited to have Sharon join the Recreation and Village Center team year-round. She has, in the past, run the beach programs, and we're bringing her in as a full-time employee. She brings a great deal of energy and enthusiasm to this position, where she'll be responsible for, among other things, scheduling recreation programs of all kinds, beach manager, including the hiring of lifeguards, organizing swimming lessons, and running beach camp. So still with that, but year-round, running programs in the Village Center and throughout the village facilities, and working with the school district to utilize their facilities as well. The Parks and Recreation Council also discussed an opportunity to work with the rinks to see if there is if there is interest in funding the resurfacing of the surface of the ice skating rink when there's not ice on it. Apparently, the surface of the ice skating rink is very tentative. It's an interlocking material, and it's hard to use it for year-round programming. And so those discussions have begun. I don't know if Clerk Sakovich, you have any updates on those discussions, but I think probably we'll have some information in the coming months. We'd really like to be able to program that area during the summer for things like pickleball and volleyball, things like that. We're also planning for the retirement of an employee, Sue Orifici, whose retirement date is March 31st. She is a graphic artist that works out of the Village Center, and we're in the process of interviewing for her, hard to call a replacement, but the person who will be in that position in the future, and we're down to 2 finalists that we're talking to this week. New information about the senior clubs. They've been very successful in the Village Center. They are held on Wednesdays from 10 to 2, and they're so successful that we're expanding the senior clubs to 2 days a week now, on Wednesdays and Thursdays, same time periods. That program has tripled or quadrupled in the amount of participants since last year. And then when summer camps begin at the Village Center, the senior club will move up to the country club. Working with the vendor at the country club to see if there might be an opportunity to use the upstairs rooms for that senior program rather than downstairs in the all-purpose room, which has no windows, doesn't have a lot of great atmosphere. So I'm working with them on that. And that is the extent of my update. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Shepro. Trustee Cassay.
Thank you. All right, so I just want to pick up on something that Stan didn't mention, but I'm very excited that we're working on up at the country club there with my environmental bend and background. We're looking at trying to find solutions for the drought situation up there that are alternatives to just taking more well water, water out of the aquifer, looking to kind of turn 2 problems into one by capturing stormwater, rainwater, and pumping that onto the golf course. This is the direction everyone seems to be going. I don't know how many folks received the email from Suffolk County Water Authority letting everyone know that you're to be irrigating on every other day, depending on your house number, even odd days this year. So the water situation is becoming it's been serious, but now it's, there's actions being taken on it. And so I'm really excited to be working with Trustee Laux and village employees and contractors to look and see how we as a village can be more responsible in this regard. Continuing with climate issues, we finally have a date set for the climate resilience presentation to the public. So many members of the public have expressed either quietly or less than quietly and quite deservedly concern about the flooding. Just Saturday morning, if you went downtown, it was high tide, very high tide after that rain. And, it's evidence shows that this is not going to get less bad. It's becoming, more and more of an issue over time. And so I've been working with Companion Schwarting Architects under a Department of State grant to on a two-part project. We've just reached the end of part one, which will culminate in this presentation on April 5th at 6:30 right here in this room. It'll be about an hour and a half presentation to the public about all of the national and local data, projects that the village has undertaken, and sort of the beginnings of conversations about projects the village is considering regarding climate resilience here in the village. This is something that's so near and dear to us, affects all of us, affects our homes, our commercial areas, our infrastructure, our environment. And so we're setting up in this room so that this presentation can be recorded as well and available to folks at home at their convenience at any time after the meeting is held. So you could attend in person or at your home. There will also be a survey that will be given out after the meeting and available for 30 days after the meeting for public residents like you to let us know after you've viewed this presentation what your top concerns are, your understanding, your feelings about what we as a village, which direction we should go in. What do you consider our greatest assets here to protect? Because with flooding, I always feel like the stormy rain cloud, but I have to say, the word is mitigation. It's not stopping flooding in the village. We used to be called Drowned Meadow, and so we're trying to prevent going back to being called Drowned Meadow in its own sense. But really, we need to decide as a community what, how we're going to go about this. So please attend if you can, or keep an eye on, watch that video. It'll be on the YouTube channel, and then take that survey and let us know. Tomorrow, I'm also very excited about a meeting between the village and USGS to talk about the potential of the village being chosen for this national research project to see, again, as many communities far beyond our own look at the management of climate issues, stormwater, flooding, what are the best ways to study the area and determine which infrastructure projects will help the most. And so we're hoping to impress USGS with our enthusiasm about climate resilience and have them choose us for this really, if you're nerdy like me, a really, really cool survey and study that they're going to do. So hopefully I'll be reporting back soon with good news there. Working with the Conservation Advisory Council, I was able to dig up in our own Port Jefferson Free Library, good for absolutely everything. They had a copy of a 2001 open space plan that I was able to get my hands back on. And so the CAC is going to look at updating that open space plan, looking at the recommendations, looking at the properties that still are open space and what has become not open space since the year 2001, and seeing what steps the village might want to take thereafter to preserve open space that's remaining. The CAC is also looking into precedent regarding different policies and ordinances that the village might want to look at regarding bamboo and invasive species, gasoline leaf blowers. Our own resident, Myrna Gordon, has asked to look into policies regarding more sustainable single-use products at village events or the village center. So again, any issues, residents can reach out to any of their respective trustees with our different commissioner and liaison assignments and ask if we could find a way to look into precedent in other communities to see what other communities are doing. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're just bringing the wheels here to make our community roll smoother. Also at the CAC, I was thrilled to have a Port Jefferson Village High School student, Amy Whitman, join the virtual meeting and report from the High School Environmental Club to the CAC, and we asked her to collect from them the list of the local youth's priorities on what they want to see done and not done in our environmental setting here. So we'll be looking to work with them, and because they are absolutely our future. As far as walkability and complete streets go, we have a late March meeting planned. Deputy Mayor Snaden, myself, Kevin Wood, and Hayduck Engineering to look at a proposal that Hayduck has put together for the village regarding complete streets, and which means streets that are safer to navigate on foot, on bike, and this is great for residents and visitors of all ages here, and a commonly discussed issue here in the village. Part of that greater movement for walkability, I've coordinated with the nonprofit called Walk Safe with a Doc to have a program here in the village on Wednesday, April 19th at 10:30 a.m. starting up at St. Catherine's. We'll have flyers available soon. But what that is we have a doctor from St. Catherine's who will walk with the group, anyone who's signed up to do a loop here in the... Thank you, St. Charles. Sorry, I'm a Smithtown girl originally. St. Charles, thank you. So we'll start at St. Charles, do a loop. I believe it's down Myrtle into the downtown and then back up. So get your hiking shoes on, bring a bottle of water, and we get to walk with a doctor who will talk about not only the wonderful health benefits of walking, but also how do you keep yourself safe while you're walking on streets, particularly that do not have sidewalks. So that's part of, again, this groundswell that we're hoping to get towards complete streets here in the village, which are referenced in our master plan. And that's my update for today.
Great report, everyone. Thank you, Rebecca.
Yeah, I'd like to add a little bit. I was remiss in not mentioning this before. Rebecca Cassay has come up to the club, and as she said, she and I are working on figuring out ways to reclaim water. But in addition to that, we've created, or Rebecca has created, a tree farm up on the country club. We have allocated a parcel of land up there that is totally out of play for golfers. We're going to be clearing it. We've cleared pretty much most of it. We're going to fence it in so the deer don't destroy the regrowth. But people who know the golf course know that we have a lot of old growth trees, and Trustee Cassay has volunteered to come up there and help us replant, nurture, and grow new trees so that we can eventually replace these old growth trees as they fall down by the wayside. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Trustee.
Thanks, Stan. So I have some exciting news. The Beechwood Group, Beechwood organization, or they're called Beechwood Homes, is in the final process of closing on the Mary Haven property. They'll be purchasing that property, and their plan is to build condos on that site. So we're very happy to hear that there'll be home ownership being built as a new development. That we have a lot of apartments being built uptown. We had some apartment buildings down here, but these will be owner-owned condos, so we're happy about that. They will be soon submitting their application to the Building and Planning Department, so stay tuned for some more information on that development. Parking signage and license plate readers. I had a meeting with Kevin, actually out in the parking lot. We are going to be updating our signage in the parking lots to add that people need to make note of their license plates before they go to pay for their parking, because that changeover, it's happening, and we have to kind of retrain everyone to not look at the number on the parking space, but their license plate is what they're going to enter, whether they go to the meter or in their phone. So we're working on adding that signage into the lots. The sign code murals that's on my agenda, working with the Architectural Review Committee, it has come up. We have two members here, Gerard and Pat Zimmerman, our newest member. And there's been a lot of discussion because, as you've seen, a lot of murals going up. The Port Jeff Chamber of Commerce has put up some murals and some other organizations. And the Architectural Review Committee asked about whether or not these murals should fall under the sign code that we already have in our code book, or whether or not a new code should be written for murals, not to prevent them, but to just have them regulated in some way. There has been discussion as to whether or not they are actual signage if they appear on, let's say, a commercial building. If there's so much language on it, does the language then constitute a sign? If they already have a sign, how many signs can they have? So, it's a good topic that we've been discussing. We're going to have the ARC members look into really first of all, precedent in other towns, that they can kind of see what other towns are doing, and as to whether or not it should just be an addendum to our sign code or a new code altogether. So they'll be looking into that. And we welcome those murals. They're beautiful. They're artwork. Rebecca had mentioned, maybe it's an artwork topic and not necessarily just a mural, whether it could be statues or sculptures that anyone may want to put up. So we'll be looking into that, and I will be reporting on that as that continues. Traffic issues in neighborhoods, line of sight and speed. I've gotten ongoing inquiries about just different neighborhoods, the line of sight at stop signs when you want to make a left-hand turn, whether there's some brush in the way, which then prompts a visit to the Building and Planning Department to find out, is that on village property? Where does the easement stop and end from the roadway to the homeowner's responsibility for cutting back brush? So that's been an ongoing process, especially now when bushes and trees start to fill in and then start to block lines of sight. There is Loretta Gate is one of the issues that we most recently worked on. If you're coming out of Loretta, when you look to the west, to the east, there's some trees. There's bushes. On top of that, there are. It's kind of a little bit of an incline, and there's also a curve, so it's very, very hard to see oncoming traffic. And then there's a speeding issue on that road as well. Right after Loretta, there's the line of the end of the village, so you have that issue, plus there's a large embankment where we don't know exactly, well, we'll find out, but where the village property ends and the homeowner. So it's very, very complicated. It's not just, there's a tree in the way, could you guys cut it down? Or there's a bush that's overgrown, can you cut it back? So I welcome those inquiries and those questions and concerns, because safety is number one priority, but understand that it's a process. We're also, in that location, for example, we're going to put up some more signage for the traffic coming up North Country heading westbound, that will say that, there's a hidden drive, that we're going to look at putting up a I don't know what the exact term is. It's a speed sign like we have over on East Broadway that tells you what your speed is. It's controlled by a solar panel, and that's just it's not like our trailer that can move around. It's affixed to a sign. So lots of different things in combination hopefully will make that intersection a lot safer. Line of sight. The school district safety meeting is coming up. We'll be attending that. Those are ongoing meetings that we have with the school district. Myself, we bring someone from our code department there, and it's just a collaboration of everyone being on the same page, from the school district and what they're doing to keep our kids safe as it goes out into the surrounding areas, and then what we can do from our end with our code department to join with them to keep everyone safe, and we're all being on the same page. We exchange any issues that we have with certain individuals that may be wandering on a school property that our code department is aware of and keeps an eye on, and there's a great collaboration there. So I'm very happy about that. That meeting's coming up, and I'll be able to report on the findings at the next meeting. And that concludes my report for tonight. And with that, we open for public comment.
Can I ask a question about part of
Absolutely.
your report?
Yep.
The Beechwood Homes update.
Yes.
So I received a request from a resident in Canyon Creek back in January about what that Mary Haven property, how it's how it's zoned, and it's zoned office, right, for office space?
I want to say it's medical office, actually.
Pardon me?
And I think it's PO.
PO.
I think it's PO. I didn't
Mhm.
look, but I think it's
It is. It's according to Mr. Harris, the head of the Building and Planning Department, and the village prosecutor. It's zone PO. And the reason I know that is because I asked him what it was zoned, and he told me. And I also followed up with a question about, is there a consideration that because it's up for sale, that there might be a variance that might be requested? And his answer to me is there has been no variance and no discussion of a variance requested. So I reported that back to the folks at Canyon Creek for their HOA meeting. You were copied on those emails, and as was the mayor and others. And I just wanted to know what changed since then.
What changed?
What changed? No one had requested a variance or was talking about variance when they were on January 30th? Like that
No.
information was incorrect that I gave the people at Canyon Creek who had their HOA meeting that following
I
day.
can't speak for what Mr. Harris responded to you, but that there's been no application submitted. So
I
whatever-
understand that, but
There's been no application submitted, so whatever their plans are and what the zoning is and how that's going to affect the zoning process is ongoing.
so I'll just tell you what the answer was from Mr. Harris. There is currently no application submitted with respect to the property. It's zone PO, and I asked for a clarification. Have there been any discussions that you are aware of to pursue a variance? And his answer was there have been no discussions of pursuing a variance. And while that may be true, we know this is a residential community that they're interested in constructing. I just would have preferred to be able to give information to the homeowners that they're looking for a variance. Do you know what I mean?
I'm not aware that they're looking for a variance. There have been no applications.
Oh,
Nobody
so
has
that's
mentioned-
not a residential community that they're building?
It would be a residential community. I am not aware of any variances or any discussions of any variances. That is true.
Oh, I thought I heard in your report that they would be pursuing a variance. Maybe I misheard. But also, you have to pursue a variance if you're hoping to build and
Correct.
construct residential facilities on a PO zoned piece of land.
Correct. You're asking me if there were discussions of a variance application. There have not been any discussions of a variance application. There hasn't even been a building and planning.
Those are semantics, but I understand what you're saying. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. We open to public comment. Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns? Barbara, speaking of building and planning. No applications, right?
Meeting on Thursday. But I think the terminology you really want to use is rezoning. And it might, rather than a variance.
Well, but again, because no application has
Application,
been,
right.
we don't know exactly what they're going to need.
Right, and then to throw another wrench into the works, that it really has been residential since.
Right.
Since it was built in, when was that built, do we know? I don't want to say before 1900, but
Yeah, I don't know.
we'll find out.
Barbara, do you know when Mary Haven was built?
No, it's.
Where's our historian?
Yeah. Okay, so now I've forgotten what I wanted to say, so. All good stuff. I love Station Street, and I've been using it. And I almost felt like, ooh, this is a private road because nobody else knows it. Well, today, 3 other people were using it, so. Whoever did the painting on my former store, Port Jeff Army Navy, there are paintings of seagulls on it now, sitting on pylons. I love it. I love it so much. I parked the car, got out, and took pictures to send to my siblings.
Oh, nice.
And it's really, whoever did it, it's a great job. There was Highway Department. What a wonderful job they did plowing.
Yes.
And in fact, the day before the snowstorm, one of the pickup trucks that had a plow on came down my street, and I'm very nosy. So I'm looking out the window, and I said, "Are they practicing? Because two guys, and they were practicing moving the plow around and how would you use it. And I had asked Mr. Gallagher, I go, you guys practice? And he goes, yes, we were. That's what you need to do it right, and they did a fantastic job.
And our Parks Department.
I'm sorry?
Our Parks Department is involved in the snow removal as well.
Oh, okay. And then they may get another chance tonight, too, from what I hear. So, what, Paquito. Maybe just enough to make the road safe. Rebecca, you gave a lot of great information, and I had a question for you, and of course, it was about the meeting that's going to be here about flooding.
Yes.
Can you please tell me the time and date again?
Absolutely. And of course, we're going to get this out to everybody in every way possible. I'm hoping that TBR, is Raymond still here?
Yes, he is.
Hoping to have a little feature there for our less technologically driven residents, but it will also be going in the e-report this week. We're going to put it on social media. Right now, we're just waiting for the flyer to be done. But for right now, April 5th, 6:30, mark your calendars. It's going to be a party. It's funny because I think this is one of the most important issues to our village, and I get really excited about it. But then I say, someone will show me some really interesting research. I said, "Oh, that's great. I mean, that's terrible, but it's great to see." Because really, it's grim. It's really grim. And but I know that with the history of this village, with the what this village is capable of, this community, that we're going to come out strong and really make a great plan to be resilient in a problem that's affecting every community, Long Island especially, being a little island, but really we want to hear from you. We want to educate the public, and this is why I'm so excited about this project in particular. Is the first step is combating fear with information. And then the next step is saying, okay, well, what's important to you? What does Port Jeff mean to you? And what do we really have to prioritize in protecting here? So please, and again, I know we were conflicted on, do we do this in the village center so we can have more in-person folks, or do we do this here because Kevin Wood has set up this really incredible audio system and visual system so that folks who can't make it at April 5th at 6:30 are not left out in any way from that information and from the ability to respond to that information. So if you can't make it or would rather stay in your PJs at home and watch the presentation there and then at your leisure, please feel free to do that. But we're really setting it up so that it's interactive, whether you're here at that date and time or within the next 30 days otherwise.
Very good. And one more question for you. I didn't get an email from Suffolk County Water Authority, and I'm not surprised because I don't think I'm on their email list. But if I go onto their website, will I see that information about watering every other day?
I would have to think so. I'm trying to think. I know I read an article about it. I get a lot of emails. It's possible.
We got the letter here in the village.
You got it, okay.
And maybe Charmaine, we can, yeah.
Yes,
Barbara
but
has the letter, so you could coordinate.
I imagine that they're rolling this out, and it's the question that I've gotten a lot, and I don't have an answer to yet, is how they're going to be enforcing this. So my house number is 1037. I can use my irrigation on odd days if I choose to irrigate, and so it's to me above the sort of specifics of it. It's a signal to our community that our aquifer is not it's a display of the fact that our aquifer is not being replenished the way it used to because of paving over open spaces, because of water use, and the biggest concern is that at some point, if the aquifer gets too low, that salt water starts to be pulled from the ocean and the Long Island Sound into our aquifer, and our drinking water becomes salty. Saline, and then it's not drinking water anymore. So, this is something that I know we're going to see more and more policies and ordinances and changes at all levels of government, water authority, all of this. And, it's, as we do as a community, we make these adjustments so that we can all have the best of what's possible. Even if, you have to find ways. I know, planting native plants don't need so much irrigation. Taking the 5-minute shower. But anyway, don't get me started on ways to save water. We'll be here all night. It's Kathy Ann's birthday. I don't want to keep her with ways to save water.
Happy birthday. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barbara.
I'm a retired teacher. Anyway, thank you so much. In all the years I've been coming to these meetings, I have never heard so much being talked about conservation, the environment, water quality, and I am so grateful to have visionaries speaking about this really, really important issue. I have never heard this before at this level, and this is so important. Okay, we need to be talking about the future. We all know what our community looks like during times of flooding. We know what our community looks like in other instances. So what I want to present to the board tonight is what I consider a simple request. It is not difficult. More and more communities all over our country are doing away with single-use plastic containers. It's happening in small communities, it's happening in our national parks, it's happening in cities in New England who have gone through very difficult times getting it to being passed at their village board. So I'm asking you to please consider these types of containers are environmentally friendly. They do not, this is bad. Okay, this is bad. And this is not what we should be using in our village buildings. For instance, if there is an event, let's say, that's scheduled at the village center, and they bring in a caterer, and they bring in their own water and their paper plates, I would hope that an ordinance or request can be made that the only kind of containers that can be used are environmentally friendly or paper products. We have to do away with the plastic. I go down to the beach and I see what our beach looks like. And it's really like you said, it's grim. And that's the word that we have to use to see what's happening with all of the environmental concerns. I also mentioned that when you put plastic bottles out for recycling, only 9% of those bottles are used for recycling. And we have a chance to really, really do something in our community, to show our school children, to show our future, what we can do as a community. And I would hope that you take this really seriously. One thing also is that I think we have to just set the bar really high. And this is not a difficult policy to consider. I think that with some thought, with working with your environmental council, is at the CAC, I think that this could be a really easy thing to complete. I went to an event on Saturday, and the entire place was all done with all of the types of containers that I'm just handing out now and paper plates. So I'm hoping that you will consider this seriously, make some changes maybe here at Village Hall, request that the employees start to do this, maybe especially at the village center, maybe up at the turn, but all of these things can set a really good example for our young people and for our community. So that's what I have to say. I hope you take it into consideration. For those of you closing, and I may as well say this now, you know, all of our garbage goes to the Brookhaven landfill. And I know that you have been all reading about what's happening at the Brookhaven landfill and the ash that's disseminated. And what's happening there because of pollution and the climate is that the community of North Bellport lives under the shadow of a 280-foot landfill, a toxic dump. And if we can do something here in our community to alleviate some of this toxicity, I'm hoping that you really take this into consideration, meet with your board, and let's get this resolution and ordinance passed and be one of the first communities on Long Island to really do something about plastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Myrna.
Thank you, Marina. Well, see, that's one of the examples of what we're looking to go away from. So I would be happy, Myrna, to work with you and the CAC to collect precedent, and then hopefully could present that to the different board members who are overseeing village ongoings at Village Center, the Country Club, and then look at them as a board to see how we can walk our way towards more sustainable practices here in the village. Does that sound like a good plan?
Thank you. Arthur.
Happy birthday, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you very much.
And by the way, April 5th, I'm excited for that meeting, and that's someone else's birthday of importance.
It is, and I received an email in response to asking if I could have the room for this date, and it just said, that's Margot's birthday. And I said, oh, happy birthday. Can we have the meeting?
Will party hats be included?
That's not even a question, Art.
Okay.
Paper party hats.
Okay. Last August, I subscribed digitally to the New York Times, and I saw a unique op-ed last August that was an op-ed video called Kill Your Lawn. There are some communities in this country that are so besieged by water and drought problems that they've changed their code, allowing people to stop growing turf grass. The number one crop in this country is not corn, it's turf grass, and it's not very sustainable. And I would like to, if possible, I'll send a link so that everyone can look at the video. I think it's only about 5 minutes. But I'd sort of like to challenge you here and now, being that we're so lucky to have an environmentalist on the board, we might have an opportunity to re-look at our code and change it to allow people to grow plants that are not Kentucky bluegrass. Let's save that for the golf course. And make it beautiful, but make it sustainable so they won't have to water even on odd days. We have a great opportunity to set an example for other communities, and I think we should talk about that, among other things, April 5th. And you know what? I'm excited. So, thank you.
Thank you, Arthur.
Thank you for sharing in my excitement. And to that point, and many others that are being discussed and are to be discussed, I'm really glad to work with our community members and fellow board members to figure out how we can take these steps one foot in front of the other and balance the needs and wants of residents who are not familiar with Kill Your Lawn and not familiar with sustainability as not just an option, but something that really working towards as a community is so important for all these reasons. So we're really looking at community outreach, education, as well as policy and legislation, so that folks don't feel like this is being imposed on them too quickly or in a way that is cramping their own styles. We are a diverse community of thinkers, and so we're looking at policies that balance the community good with individual rights to have a little bit of bluegrass, and then hopefully some native wildflowers or winterberry bushes, things like this. It's life is all about balance, isn't it?
I've seen some articles about clover lawns. Is that a thing, or is that, I mean, is that a good thing for water conservation?
Yeah, it is, because if you think about the,
Just
yeah.
grows.
Oh yeah, it just
Yeah.
grows, and you get the bees, buzzing around and the clovers, and it's beautiful. That creeping thyme is a really beautiful and
Little flower.
and it flowers and it smells lovely when you walk across it. So there are all these really, it's. Earlier we had a presentation from Charmaine about sort of where was the branding of our village. What are we all about as a village? And forward thinking was a common theme in a lot of what the responses were. So it's an exciting time. It's a really exciting time, and I think staying on the positive of it all and saying, yeah, there are these issues, but there are really beautiful ways to look at them, and it's not this. You're not being put upon, you're being introduced to something really exciting, and to have a clover lawn or otherwise.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything for comment, questions, concerns? Nobody? No? Anyone from the board have anything else? We're good. Motion to adjourn? Rebecca, second? All in favor? Okay. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. I want to go wish Kathy Ann